That's really funny. My wife was gonna laugh about that.
Have you paid attention to that trial at all?
No, I haven't.
I am
What's happening?
fucking fascinated by it.
Yeah.
Like, I am fascinated by charlatans. I'm fascinated by people who pull the wool over incredibly rich people's eyes and hoodwink them by. She fit this perfect narrative that they were looking for. This billionaire genius woman who's the boss lady of this company that's going to do groundbreaking new work on blood testing, and it's going to revolutionize the industry and help everyone. And she had this fake voice, and I'm so fascinated by her. I'm so fascinated by the story.
Yeah, it is a great story. I love con man stories. In fact, that's one of the reasons why I spent so many years covering the financial crisis. Also,
some of your best work.
My favorite book growing up was about a con man. It was this book called Dead Souls by a Russian writer named Gogol. And it's about a guy who basically buys a bunch of dead serfs and mortgages them because there was a loophole in Russian law back then. Like the census was so slow that if you bought the equivalent of a slave, the state bureaucracy wouldn't know that person was dead yet. So you could go to a bank and mortgage your slaves and get cash for them, essentially, right? So the guy went around just sort of buying dead slaves. But the con men are fascinating, right? And especially in the internet age, there's so many different ways to rip people off to scale that I think the authorities are just always going to be a couple of steps behind. I mean, you look at everything from Bernie Madoff to the 1MDB scandal in Malaysia, which was an unbelievable story, just basically stealing billions of dollars from investors around the world by representing a phony bond scheme. It's just incredibly easy to do. All you need to do is have the appearance of respectability and
have a bunch of people who are respectable that have already bought into it.
Exactly.
That's the Bernie Madoff thing, right?
Right. You've seen The Sting.
Yes.
Right? So that's what they call a big store con, right? Where everybody you see looks like they're sort of a natural part in the environment, but actually they've been put there for a reason to sort of mess with your perceptions of things. And that's what happened with the Theranos, with 1MDB, with the subprime mortgage scandals. Everybody looked like they were on the up and up, but actually they were all in on it. And there's just a lot of really interesting ways to rip people off in this environment.
It's fascinating when someone like Bernie Madoff can get so many people, and I always thought before I read your coverage of the banking crisis, I thought there was someone out there who is really clearly paying attention to all of the pieces that are moving, and I thought it was straightforward, bad example maybe, but we understand how fast cars are because we know the engineers that have worked to develop the displacement in the engines and how the transmissions work, and there's a clear trackable thing. You can't just come out with a car and say this car goes 0 to 60 in 1/10 of a second and everyone's like, what are you talking about? Where's this how is this being made? And this new technology that no one's ever seen before. None of that exists. We have new tires, and it works on gravity propulsion systems. It doesn't even have anything to do with engines. It would be trackable, right? Like an engine is trackable. I thought finances were trackable. You think it's funny? Well, you think it's funny because you had to do a lot of research.
I did, yeah. So
pull that microphone in front of you a little more.
Sorry.
No worries.
So Madoff was part of what he was doing was he was operating on people's belief in a non-existent regulatory scheme. We do have visibility into parts of the financial structure. We have a pretty well-regulated stock exchange, for instance. There are certainly problems there too, but you can see every trade more or less, right? Or you can see most of the trades. Actually, I'm going to get in trouble saying that even. But with Bernie Madoff, he didn't even do trades. There's nobody checking.
Right.
Like, and so there was an investigator, Harry Markopoulos. There was a guy sort of independently kind of figured out that there was something wrong with the situation, and all Madoff was doing is this is a classic old school Ponzi scheme. You guarantee a certain amount of returns. Some people give you some money up front. You take all that money, and then as new people come in, you give the early investors a little taste as if those are investment returns. Actually, all it is just one big fungible pile of money, and there's no investment, there's no nothing. It's just a con, right? He never was doing any trading. He wasn't doing anything. He just had a big pile of money, and he was constantly bringing in new people.
But didn't he start off as an actual legitimate trader?
That happens a lot, actually. There are a number of people who start off trying to do it right. No, I don't know if he actually was doing trades. Like when he stopped doing that, I'm not sure. But there are a number of stories about people who start off like they're hedge funds. Hedge funds don't really get checked, right? So if you're running a hedge fund and you want to do it right, you have some kind of investment strategy you think is going to work. So you get a whole bunch of high net worth people and you say, "Can you give me $500,000?" They all throw money in, and you start investing and it doesn't work, and then suddenly there's this temptation. Well, I don't have to tell them, I can put out a report that says we actually earned 7% or 14% this year, and no one's going to check because there isn't a body that checks for that kind of investment. So yeah, I think the public doesn't know that there are all these sort of blank spots in the financial universe, and that's why these sort of cons proliferate.